Yeah, Krishna, I can start.
Uh, Wish you a warm and pleasant good morning to all. A famous quote by Nelson Mandela says, "A good leader can engage in a debate frankly and thoroughly, knowing that at the end, he and the other must be closer and thus emerge stronger." I'm happy to have this opportunity to announce the annual Maria Philip Memorial Intercollegiate Debate Competition. I welcome you all to the I welcome you all to this debate competition. I also welcome our beloved chairman, Professor J. Philip Sir, Vice Chairman, Professor C.P. Ravindranathan Sir, and our Director, Professor Nilayappan Sir. Xavier Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship, XIME, is the one of the India's leading business schools with fully residential campuses in Bangalore, Kochi, and Chennai. It founded in 1991 by a group of accomplished academicians and public-spirited men. The institute today is recognized for its state-of-the-art infrastructure and proficient faculty. Professor J. Philip, former director from IIM Bangalore, has founded, nurtured, and developed the institution, and XIME continues to grow under his able leadership. XIME's journey of growth is a saga of milestone and continued success. Over the years, XIME has grown in the national rankings and currently features in the top 25 business schools in India. Survey conducted by Business Standard June 27, 2017 and Business India in December 2016. The flagship PGDM program is AICTE approved and accepts a total of 420 students across all three campuses. Introducing the person behind whom XIME started, Maria Philip. Maria Philip born in Changanasheri, Kerala on April 9, 1964. Maria got her ICSE from Loreto Convent, Ranchi in 1980. She did her higher secondary schooling at Convent of Jesus and Mary, New Delhi, and went to do her BA Honours in Psychology from Jesus and Mary College from New Delhi. She was a born leader. Maria was an excellent orator and an organizer too. Though she was studious, she was all equally active participant in extracurricular activities as well. She was the head girl at Loreto School Ranchi, games captain at Convent of Jesus and Mary School, and secretary at the debating club at Jesus and Mary College. The crowning glory for Maria was when she elected as the most popular girl at the All India Cultural Festival, Montage at Jesus and Mary College in 1984. Having been always passionate about the human resource management, she decided to pursue a master's program in personal management at the Madras School of Social Work. But unfortunately, during her final year, she was called to the gods abroad on 30 September 1986, shattering all the dreams of contributing to the society. Maria was the inspiration behind her father in the founding of XIME. Moving on, I'll now introduce the panelists for today. Today we have Parna Bhattacharya ma'am, Head of Learning and Development, ABB India. Experience in learning and development with about 10 years of experience in learning and development. Ma'am has certified green belt in special OD projects, trained in facilitating large-scale interaction process for organization. Ma'am has certifications in Hogan, MBTI, certified OD analyst, and a certified life coach. Experience in developing OD and L strategies and international and national sites. Welcome, ma'am. Next panelist we have is Kasturi Kotha, Head HR Bangalore, HRBP, Product and Technology, globally at Taylor and Francis Group and Informa Business. Ma'am has a 20 plus years of experience in human resources and worked earlier as head HR at Vivaswa Software, Danske IT, and other organizations. like Temenos, Everest, Management, Software, and Carbon Accessories. Ma'am is the member of the NHRD Bangalore Committee. Welcome, ma'am. The next panelist we have today is Madhukar Gowda, sir, GMHR from Schneider Electric India. Sir has hold an experience in human resource professional with about 15 plus years of experience with a demonstrated history of working in the electrical and electronic manufacturing industry. A strong human resource professional skilled in HR shared services, HR operations, executive search, HR business partnering, employee engagement, and employee cycle management. Now I would like to invite Professor Ramesh Ranjan sir to say a few words.
Thank you, Krishna. It's my pleasure on behalf of Xavier Institute of Management, Entrepreneurship Bangalore, to welcome our chairman, our director, our vice chairman, faculty members of Zyme, the participants for today from the Mysore colleges, our esteemed judges, Madhukar, Parna, and Kasturi. And it's indeed a very a nostalgic memory for all of us as we stand here to pay tribute to the late departed soul of Maria Philip. It's nostalgic also because Maria and me studied together at the Madras School of Social Work in 1985-86. She was my junior at college, and I'm in a way privileged and happy to be paying tribute to her through this program in memory of her. This is a flagship event which has been conducted by Professor Philip for the last 25 years, and every year we have had very engaged and spirited conversations and debate on topics of national interest. It is but befitting that today, at a time when we are faced with the corona pandemic, which has literally brought the world to a standstill, that we have taken up this topic for debate today to understand the government's response to the COVID-19 situation. I'm sure that the participants will have some very heated and spirited discussions. We had some great debate day yesterday in Bangalore, and we will also have another round of debating at Mangalore. I wish all the participants the very best and look forward to some very exciting discussions and debate today. Thank you once again to all of you all for having come online, and especially to the judges for having spared their time from the busy schedule. And I'm sure we're going to have some good times over the next couple of hours. Krishna, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So moving to the topic of today's discussion, that is government's economic measures to deal with the impact of COVID-19 have so far been effective. I repeat, government's economic measures to deal with the impact of COVID-19 have so far been effective. The rules of the competition are: only one team is allowed to participate from a B school. Each team will have 2 members, out of which at least one must be a girl. One speaker will speak for the motion for 4 minutes, and the other speaker will speak against the motion for 4 minutes. There will be warning bell after 3.5 minutes. There will not be any cross rebuttal rounds. Negative marking for exceeding the 4 minutes limit time. Teams should not wear their college uniforms or blazers indicating name of their colleges or institute, and are not allowed to mention their college names during the speech. Participants are requested to wait in the waiting room for at least before 10 minutes the scheduling time. Moving ahead, there will be three teams to go to the finals. From this, the prizes for regional rounds are: for the first place, the participants will bagged with 10,000 rupees, and for the second place, the participants will be bagged with 3,000 rupees, and the third place will bag with 2,000 rupees of prize. These are the 2019 winners from the Maria Philip Debate Intercollegiate Debate Competition. And now I want to wish all the participants
I was just hearing y'all clearly.
Okay.
Can you see me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay, happy starting. Let me tell you a small story about a teacher in Mysuru who spends hours together using the technological aspects, creating videos and notes so that she can meet up to the requirements of her students. But I realized the amount of struggle and pain that she goes through so that she can understand how to actually use these technological aspects. Well, what does she get in return for all of this? She used to be paid a meager salary, and now she is paid half of what she used to be paid, which is barely enough to sustain a livelihood. A very good morning to one and all present here. Since you all know the topic, let me just mention that I will be speaking against the motion today about it. So this story which I mentioned is just about one professional. There are a million other professions like this which are being ignored and neglected by the government for support. And this is one issue amongst the million other icy situations which our country is facing under the treacherous grip of COVID-19. Well, Abraham Lincoln once said, "Give me 6 hours to chop a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Let me tell you why I chose this quote. Obviously, the tree that we all want to chop as of now is the COVID-19, and the axe is the government's policies and strategies. But I think we forgot to spend some time sharpening it before going ahead to cut the tree. Yes, I am not blaming the government's policies or the strategies, but I am trying to put light on the implementation, the execution, and the planning where we have lacked, which has led to the major reason behind why we are not able to ensure effectiveness about the policies. So let me put some light on the issues that our economy is facing currently. The GDP has seen a drastic reduction of 23.9% in the last 41 years for the first time. 12 crore job losses, 15.5 lakh crore stressing loans, highest COVID-19 cases and deaths. And how do you expect me to be agreeing to the fact that this was an effective management system? Moving ahead, go back to the last 5 years of the government, which was majorly focused on demonetization and GST. So GST, as per me, has been a big hit to the MSME sector and has affected them very badly. It has cut down the state's revenue, undermined the federal spirit of the country's polity, and made the state dependent on the center. So today, when the state goes up to the center asking for advice how to pay salaries, the center tells them to go up to the RBI and pick up loans, which is one of the most ridiculous things that they could be doing in the present circumstance. Also, we all know that the MSME sector and the entrepreneurial sector has taken a big hit, but we're forgetting to focus on the informal sector where most of the people cannot afford to stay at home to earn a living. Also, this situation has led to a wide gap between the rich and the poor, the formal and the informal, the private and the public sector. So thus, the creation of jobs is one of the biggest challenges that I see in my concern. Also, the two major reasons for the crisis in the economy is excessive lending of loans and lack of repayment of the loans. So the non-profitable assets, the NPA, is one of the biggest problems of the banking sector, and the government has done nothing much about it. Also, the rental income hasn't been focused upon by the government. Lastly, my opposition might say that we have so many schemes like COVID-19, the PM CARES Fund, which has 9,677.9 crores, and yet I am here questioning why are we not able to target this issue effectively. The reason for it is lack of awareness amongst the people about the existence of such policies. Secondly, lack of awareness about usage of digital technology in the right way to access these policies. Thirdly, lack of awareness about the severity of the situation. People are taking things lightly with time. And most importantly, there are so many loopholes, and bureaucracy in our government has to be streamlined to ensure that everyone gets what the government is actually aiming to do. So this will help us take baby steps in securing effective implementation of the strategies and seeing that good results come out. And at the end, we can pull ourselves out of this treacherous, deadly situation that we all are stuck in, and hence make effectiveness happen in the ensure that the government's policies reach out to every citizen of the nation. So with this, I would like to end my talk for today.
Thank you.
Thank
you. So should I start?
Yeah, Mehul. So 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes, the color will go yellow and you'll have 30 seconds. You can refer your notes, but you can't read out from your book or paper or whatever it is.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start.
Start.
So just a few days back, as I was flipping through my newspapers, I came across an interesting headline. Adani Ports have completed the acquisition of Krishnapatnam ports at a whopping 12,000 crore rupees. Now, why am I talking about this? What relevance it has got to do with today's topic? Keep thinking. Until then, I'm Mehul Jain and I should today be speaking for the motion. To start with, before we dive into all these economic measures, let us understand where the GDP contraction has been. So, to target sector-wise, the GDP contraction in the construction sector is at 50%, followed by manufacturing and mining at 40%, and then the food and related industries at 27%. So naturally, what the government has done is have economic measures around these sectors. So for MSMEs, it has offered 3 lakh crore collateral-free loans, and out of which 1.86 lakh collateral-free loans have already been claimed. So clearly, businessmen are leveraging their positions as they see some growth and revival. And talking about the construction sector, we all know construction sector sees interest as one of the biggest expenses. So for that, we have moratoriums in place. Food and travel and related industries, well, they have a new dependent parameter for them, and that is COVID-19 scenario. Until that eases out, any monetary support they give is useless. We all know the notoriousness of Indian businessmen, wherein they hoard money and don't bring cash into rotation. So that sector right now needs no stimulus. Going on and taking a cue from Dr. Rajan's analogy, think of economy as a patient in sick bed, and these economic measures as a tonic, which makes sure that the patient doesn't go into comatose and is able to get out of the sick bed. The patient's fitness and recovery, we have to do it. And that we can do it by natural resilience. We have to build it. Any allopathic treatment that we give is only going to have long-term effects, which are more worrying. These long-term effects are the side effects that I'm talking about. So what is the government doing? So this is where we'll solve the mystery that I left in the beginning. Just yesterday concluded the Quad meeting. Australia, USA, Japan, and India came together and had an in-person meeting during the COVID-19 pandemic, which in itself is a huge testimony of how concentrated the government is on the economy. So why is this meeting of importance? So we all know the importance of supply chain, and we all are forgetting India's geostrategic advantage, the 7,300 kilometer coastline that we have. We know this wonder supply chain is done for China and Middle East. No wonder why China is militarizing South China Sea around the 9 dashed line region. So clearly, India wants to project itself as the next alternate global supply chain. And for global supply chain, we need logistics infrastructure. That is what Adani Ports is going to offer us. With the current acquisitions of the airports and the ports, they are building a dynamic logistical network. Why is logistical network important? Well, it will have a domino effect. What we are going to see is the exports and the imports have high logistical costs. With a good logistical chain and supply chain, these costs are going to come down. And this will give manufacturing industry a push. So that is what is important right now. It will also lead to job creation, which all my oppositions are questioning about. So we'll have to wait for the economy to recover. And lastly, what we seem to be forgetting is that what makes economy grow? Take US for example. US has entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban, Larry Page, and the list simply goes on. These are the guys who made the economy what it is today. We need entrepreneurs to come forth and push the economy. And that is what Atmanirbhar Bharat is all about. The recently conducted Race 2020 like conferences is what we need. This is going to give us the push that is required. So
All right, yeah.
Okay, you can start. The time starts now.
Okay. A very good morning, everyone. Today, I, Khushbu, will be speaking for the topic, government's economic measures to deal with the impact of COVID-19 has so far been effective. COVID-19 brought the dark clouds glooming over Indian economy. 25th March 2020, a country of 1.3 billion population goes under a strict lockdown and imposed discipline. And discipline is that one thing very essential to achieve any goal. The step-by-step phase-wise lockdown bought time for the citizens and helped us understand how to deal with the situations well. Even during these times, our farmers, the pillar of Indian economy, were
allowed to carry out farming activities. During this, the RBI reduced repo rate from 75 basis points. A RBI rate cut is something like someone reducing the raw material price in the market. Apart from benefiting general borrowers, this also helped the industrial sector. The reduction in the repo rate means the industries will now be able to get loans at a very cheaper interest rate from the lenders. This resulted even in the commodities price coming down, ultimately benefiting end users like you and me. Though there was an initial decline in the GDP during earlier phase of COVID-19, our economy is coming back strongly during the unlock phase. According to the Indian Express, the V-shaped recovery in the indicators like PMI, manufacturing, 8 core sectors, e-way bills, power consumption, and kharif crop sowing has shown that the government measures are enabling recovery in the unlock phase. In fact, manufacturing PMI is 25-year high. Another evidence to this is Indian manufacturing sector activity touched 8.5-year high in September 2020. To cope up with the prevailing employment issue, government immense support to provide relief to MSME has helped both the employees and employers. For an instance, if we just leave whatever I narrated till now, the stock market reflects the mood of the Indian economy. The July-September quarter ironically saw a rise in the stock markets. So many things have happened in the country, and yet our country has not taken any big loans from the foreign exchanges. In fact, our forex reserve is at the highest time during now. It sums to around US $500 billion, which is a good sign of recovery. I concede the fact that we are the highest number of cases around the world, but the fact that we also have the best recovery rate that cannot be denied. Look at the best developed countries like US and UK who are not able to cope up, but we, our developing nations, are coming up strongly with a bang. On one hand, we had technical support from the Arogya Setu who was guiding us, and on the other hand, we had a humanity approach like Atmanirbhar Bharatiya Abhiyan that made us self-reliant and independent. Our government is fighting both physically, mentally, financially, and economically. To conclude with, I would just like to quote Anand Mahindra. He said in the World Economic Forum, Indian economy is going to be a blockbuster film with a hit and the best ending. Thank you.
Thank you, Khushbu.
Thank you.
So your partner is ready?
Sebu?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see you now. So Sebu, you can see this timer on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 4 minutes. So 3.5 minutes, it will turn yellow, and then you'll have 30 seconds to conclude, right? You can refer notes if you want, but you can't read out a ready script or a book or from your system.
Cool.
Start now. You can start.
The storm is upon us. The COVID-19 pandemic has devastated our country into the worst economic crisis since the independence. The inert government has grossly mismanaged the economic measures to deal with COVID-19 so far. A body blow has been caused to the economy in the form of a badly designed and poorly planned lockdown and unlock. The lockdown failed as we were more focused on containing the people rather than containing the spread of the virus. The celebrated low mortality rate is due to the old age cohort, the age 65 and above being very less in the country. On May 12th, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, pledged a mythical sounding 12 lakh rupees as part of his Atmanirbhar package. This is equivalent to 10% of the current GDP. Over the next 5 days, the Finance Minister unveiled slice after slice stimulus of package carefully designed to meet the magic numbers of the Prime Minister. Instead of an urgent cash that was needed for the poor, The stimulus mostly contained previously announced measures as well as central bank's moves to spur lending. The actual stimulus was anywhere between the range of 0.8 to 1.3. The rest of the lackluster stimulus package was a hodgepodge of supply inducements, loan guarantees, and misplaced reforms. It was as though the government needed a pandemic to bring in reforms into the industry. An example would be the moratorium on the loans of home loans below 24 lakhs or the period of 3 months. The government did not alleviate the pain of the people. The loans were postponed, the interest were postponed, but they were compounded further. It was as though the government wanted to postpone the pain of the people. The ban on shipment of e-commerce during the lockdown period was a big misstep. This could have actually saved the economy in a big way. The plight of the migrant workers could be seen when millions of them started voting with their food, walking hundreds of kilometers to the respective homes. The same PSUs that had run trains for Nepalis in the aftermath of the earthquake felt it was normal to charge the full amount from the migrants. The government didn't have data about the migrant workers or the martyrdom of the healthcare workers, the latter upon which all the theatrics of plate banging, candle lighting, or flower peddling was based upon. This was to the simple fact that there was no coordination between the state government and the central government. What India is going to do through is a K-shaped recovery. This can be widely seen in the example of a strong stock market, while millions are losing out on their jobs. The government needs to focus not on the fiscal deficit numbers, but they need to be thoughtful about the people. We don't want the rich getting richer and the poor getting even further poorer.
Yeah, okay, start.
Good morning to the respected panelists. I am speaking for the motion that is, government's economic measures to deal with the impact of COVID-19 have so far been effective. COVID-19 was declared pandemic worldwide, and India's first COVID-19 case was detected on 30 January 2020 in the state of Kerala. During these unpredictable times, the government of India have taken various measures in order to tackle this pandemic. The government followed the protocol of World Health Organization to test, trace, isolate, and support. The government notified this as a disaster to make it fall under the Disaster Management Act of 2000. Under this section 10 clause 1 subclause 3, the government announced nationwide lockdown. During this lockdown was praised by United Nations and also WHO as a comprehensive and robust movement by the government of India. During this lockdown, the government initiated various campaigns, communication strategy, and used technology and social media platform to create awareness among the people so that people would involve and become part of the solution. The government pitched for Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-reliance, vocal for local, so that it would not only help the indigenous people, but also make the India as a part of global market. The main duty of the government is to safeguard the lives and livelihood of the people. It did so by providing 10% of its GDP for the welfare of the people through package, whereas developed countries like UK just gave 3%. The mega package of rupees 20 lakh crore was given not only to help the economical backward people, but also to the salaried employees. The salaried employees could get personal income tax reduction and also income tax refund up to 5 lakh, which immediately helped 14 lakh taxpayers. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana gave 1.70 lakh crores to help 80 crore of poor people by giving 5 kg of wheat or rice free and also 1 kg of pulses for a period of 3 months starting from March end. Jandan card holders and account holders got direct credit transfer to the account, be it women, senior citizens, farmers, Divyangs, and rest who could not meet their daily needs. Also, free gas cylinders was given under Ujjwala Yojana. Then the government, in order to help the daily wage workers, gave 24% of the monthly wage in advance as non-refundable advance for people who had 15,000 less per annum income. Then the special Sarnik train was started by the government so that migrant workers could go back to their hometowns, and also 85% of its train fares were reduced. 50 lakh insurance were given to the healthcare workers who day and night fought for our protection. And 15,000 crore for the healthcare department to manufacture various essential commodities like masks and diagnostic kits. Ministry of Corporate Affairs amended the rules of corporate social responsibility 2014 in order to include research and development pertaining to COVID-19 as one of the CSR activity. By this, huge companies could invest in it as a CSR activity and also contribute to PM CARES Fund, which was only started to help the people deal with this pandemic. The people who could not afford for testing and treatment were given it for free of cost under Ayushman Bharat scheme. Other than this, the local government has started various other campaigns like Operation Namaste, satellite control rooms, and apps like Arogya Setu. E-banking and e-governance also was given so people at the grassroots level could utilize it. The government of India, in its capacity and the resources available, have implemented a full and complete reform package to include all the sections of the society and benefit the livelihood. As a result of which, we can see that the fertility rate has decreased up to 1.55%, which is very low when compared to world's average rate. In a country like India, where India's population is very large, I think this economic measure is very effective, not only to help them build capacity and skill to deal with this, but also to tackle, to bring about global value chain, that is international production supply. So I would conclude by saying that government does not run on the whims of an individual, but its progress is on reforms. Reforms are policy driven and policy are people driven. So the government...
A very pleasant good morning to everyone. I am speaking against the motion that is the government's economic measures are not sufficient to deal with the impact of COVID-19. The coronavirus has shrunk everything that has come in its way, including the economies. Since the emergence of COVID-19, many countries across the world have been facing two potential problems. One is that they have waged a war against the global pandemic coronavirus, and the other one is the economic crisis. Speaking about the impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy, it has almost affected all the sectors of the economy. But it is pertinent to note few important factors. That is, as per the report given by the Center for Monitoring Economy, there has been a gradual increase in the unemployment rate from 8.35% to 23.52%. And also, during the period of lockdown, India's 2 trillion economy was shuttered down, which caused great losses to the government exchequer. And also, India's private investment, which was supposed to be 57%, has been reduced by 47%, and the foreign investment rates have been declined by about 47%. And there has also been an overall contraction of 23% GDP in India. And India's overall spending has been increased by about 16%. In this present crisis, in order to overcome the same, the government has introduced a stimulus package amounting to rupees 20,000 crores on 12th May, which is estimated to be about 10% of India's total GDP. But this package mainly concentrates on the business of unorganized sector, and the implementation of the package will furthermore add more uncertainties to already existing uncertainties associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead, the government must have sought ways to mobilize the additional revenues by inculcating measures such as calling off the tax exemptions which was given to corporate sector, as it is causing great loss to the government exchequer, and also by imposing a wealth tax on super rich individuals, and also by implementing the proposal given by the Indian Revenue Service Association, which states that an additional COVID-19 one-time cess of 4% can be levied on taxable income of 1 million and over 1 million, so that it will help the government to collect an additional revenue of rupees 150 billion. Furthermore, the government must formulate its policy and strategy so as to stimulate the domestic demand of the country. But what the government has failed in doing so is to redress the grievance of safeguarding the livelihood of millions of citizens who are the real assets of the country. And also, the government has not brought any considerable increase in the rate of production. And also, the policies of the governments are not so that it has reduced the existing economic distortions. Hence, as John C. Maxwell rightly states that Great leaders must be close enough to relate to others, but far more hired to motivate them. Similarly, the Indian government must have a futuristic mindset, and Indian government and Indian policy makers must adopt such policies and programs which facilitate the economic development and boost up the economy as a whole, not only for today but also in the future. Since there is the course of correction, the government should stop implementing such policies and measures in responding.
Kasturi and Aparna, your feedback or observations or suggestions?
Jonathan.
Yeah. So, firstly, I think the topic was very in thing. And some of them, it's of course a mixed bag of participation. Some of them were really well prepared, but for the technical preparation, I think it would have gone really well. And we did have some amount of discussion on, we had kind of a bucket, right? I mean, someone who really performed well and someone who didn't perform that well. And the partnership between the two people is something that has kind of pulled down somebody who's really performed quite well, but the partnership not being so effective has pulled them down. A little unfortunate. Yeah, but overall, it was a good experience. Thanks, Ramesh, for this opportunity, and XIME for putting this up as an exclusive topic for the debate competition. Good experience that I had.
Dukka?
Yeah, Ranjan, so first of all, it's a great platform for the students, kind of topic being selected, very relevant to the current situation. It also gives them an insight in terms of doing some bit of homework. It's not a political topic as such. It's something which is touching everybody's life, everyday day-to-day life. So some angle of triggering the thought process. I mean, somebody can look at it not from an academic way of, I need to win this debate competition, but more to, generate those thoughts, the food for thought kind of a topic. So that way, excellent topic being selected, Ranjan. And I would like to thank you and the XIME College to, having us here in this platform. Coming back to the students, as Kasturi, pointed out, it is a little difficult for us to, identify who's the best or to rank them, primarily because one of the partners have done extremely well, but one of them is kind of slightly pulling them down. In some of the areas, could be from the delivery standpoint or could be from the content standpoint. But some of the students are extremely good. If we have to go back to thinking our college days, these guys have really done well.
Thank you, Madhu. And can we have a friend from USA, Parna?
Yeah, so no, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, my thoughts are that, it's very interesting. I liked the passion. The best part is this kids who really did the good, delivery. I liked some of them used storytelling, some of their personal stories, they tried a varied amount of delivery styles, which was very nice, very interesting. I think some of them also did a good research, and Kasturi really, pointed the fact that some of them have the content which was really great, though the delivery needs to be improved. But overall, I really enjoyed this time because, and since I'm from the learning background, for me, it's more important to see that how these people are shaping up to, I see they will be really, great speakers. At least 6 of them, which I have in my mind, they're really nice. Is there a possibility that we can give them a feedback that, because I see certain tweaking, some places, there is one lady who was wonderful, but her energy, she didn't know how to control. Okay. Some person was fantastic in delivery, certain words or MTI ability to, hear biofeedback, those kind of things. If we can do that, then these people will be groomed much better.
We'll be sharing this video where you people are giving your feedback to them.
Yeah.
Make a capsule and share, including your feedback. So
okay, excellent. Excellent.
So now it's over to you all to declare the first, second, and the third for Mysore round.
Okay, Kasturi, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Parna. Thank you, Madhu. Maybe we could kind of distribute between three of us all the each position. So, the first position, it was quite an easy choice for us. Goes to the team of Mehul and Arya. Parna, over to you for second position declaring.
Yeah, the second, I actually, you can only
Okay.
say. I forgot the name.
Okay, sure. Let me go back to the sheet. Second position goes to Kushbu and Cebu. And third position, Madhu, you would want to make an announcement?
All right. So the second runner-up is a team of Roshni and Bhuvneshwari.
Bhuvneshwari.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Parna mentioned, the first one was pretty easy for us. The winner family was pretty easy. The first runner-up and second runner-up is we kind of struggled because both the teams, one individual was extremely good, but the other one was slightly struggling. So that's why we also found a little difficulty in identifying the first and the second runner-up.
I think I more or less agree with. In fact, it's almost the same, right? As you rightly said, Mehul was first choice for me, and
Ranjan, your voice is quite feeble. I don't know if it's for me or
right. I said more or less we agree with the decision. Looks like it's in sync with even what I thought about it, right? So, Sindhu, you want to share which is the colleges for them, for the judges?
Yes, sir. First one is National Institute of Engineering, Mysore. Second one is SDM IMD, Management College. And third is JSS Law College.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I would just like to conclude by saying thank you to the judges for having taken time off, Madhu, Kasturi, and Parna. Taken a precious time of your busy schedule to be here with us and being part of the jury. Thanks to all the participating students and the colleges who participated in this event. As you rightly said, we had some great speakers. We had some challenges with technology, but I think that's a learning curve. Thanks to our chairman, our director, and other senior faculties of Zyme for having been part of this program. To Aurelia and to all the volunteers